Good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work, and thank you for joining into this morning's edition of Don't Sleep on the Dallas Cowboys, because you literally cannot sleep on the Dallas Cowboys, because things happen late in the evening, late at night, first thing in the morning, so you want to make sure you didn't miss anything on our Dallas Cowboys. And we are just some 81 days, 8 hours, 11 minutes, and 37 seconds away from kicking off the 2018 season against the Carolina Panthers. And I can't wait. And we're in that dreaded 5-week period where we've had a taste of football with OTAs and workouts and stuff and minicamp, but we're not quite at camp yet. But it's this time that everybody's getting ready for the season. I'm working on my man cave and stuff outside. I gotta get going working on it here too, so I'll have this place ready to rock and roll when the season gets here. But Vegas, of course, is getting ready for the season. They're getting odds right now for what teams will fire the coach first. You know Vegas, they put odds on everything. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? How many points are going to be in the Super Bowl? Who's going to be MVP? Who's going to be Rookie of the Year? They're already starting on who's going to get fired first. And we haven't even gotten to training camp. But let's go through the list real quick because it's kind of surprising. Because you have Hugh Jackson. You can understand that. Hugh Jackson, who was 0-16 with the Doo-Doo Browns, who made some trades, signed some players, had a really good draft, and now expectations are pretty high for the Cleveland Browns to be a playoff team. Don't think he's going to be able to meet those expectations, so you can see why it's, 350 to 1. Then you got Adam Gase. Yeah, you can see that. And then you have Marvin Lewis at 750 to 1, which is interesting because Marvin Lewis has been with the same team since 2007. An interesting stat, of coaches who have been at the same team since 2010, there's 9 of them. And of those 9 coaches, 7 of them have been to a Super Bowl, and 6 have won at least one, if not multiple, Super Bowls. So you look at him and say Cincinnati, who's had more off-field issues and arrests than anybody else in the league during that time. You look at how Andy Dalton has completely regressed. Yes, he's worse than Dak Prescott, believe it or not, but people don't talk about that. So yeah, you could say Marvin Lewis should be on the hot seat. Marvin Lewis should have been fired last year. But after that, you've got Vance Joseph. And you could say Denver, who had a great defense not long ago in the Super Bowl, literally went off the tracks, down a hill, in a canyon, and blew up. So yeah, you could see him being there. So 1,000 to 1 odds. Then you got Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden with the Washington Redskins, and you could say, he started out with RG&E. Then he had Kirk Cousins, 2 guys that he didn't really want for his quarterback. Now he's got Alex Smith, his guy, so to speak. And so now he's been there long enough that it's time to do something or it's time to move on. And quite frankly, with the Redskins, I'm surprised that he's been there that long because Dan Snyder usually doesn't have that long of a rope. And so after that, you got Todd Bowles, and you can say, the Jets, it's about time for them to do what they always do, which is start all over, that 3-4 year cycle, because they just get stuck and just can't seem to get over the hump. Bill O'Brien, you could say that. They're wanting a winner down there at the Texans. And then you have Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett is 9th on coaches' odds who will get fired first. Wow. You're talking about Jason Garrett, who was just coach of the year a couple years ago. And now he is on the hot seat? Which brings me back to a question from a great fan out there is Jason Garrett on the hot seat? Well, here's the thing. As much as Jerry loves Jason Garrett, here's the reality. The other coach who has been with the same team since 2010 and hasn't been to a Super Bowl is Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett has had more than enough time to turn the roster over to his type of guys. That year he was coach of the year. People say, hey, he did a great season, did a great thing. The season was incredible. But here's what bothers me. And I said after the end of that year that it was time to make a change. And I've been saying that since 8-8. I've never been a big fan of Jason Garrett. And maybe part of the problem is Jerry Jones has too much influence and Jason Garrett hasn't had the ability to fully coach the team the way he wants to. That is a possibility. Whatever the dynamic is, I look at the team in 2016. Rookie of the Year quarterback. Running back, rushing champion. Best line in football. Not a great defense, but a defense that did pretty good, and you couldn't win a playoff game. And on top of it, you lost it in the same fashion you lost to the same team before. We've had brain farts for years, icing your kicker, coaches that have gone on the field and got, personal fouls, clock management issues, play calling, passing too much in games you've got big leads. We've seen meltdowns in Green Bay where we lose where we're up 26-3 at halftime and lose a game to Matt Flynn, not Aaron Rodgers, Matt Flynn. We've seen the Cowboys up a couple of scores against the Detroit Lions and still passing it like crazy and letting the Lions come through. Letting Bobby Carpenter get 2 second-half interceptions and looking like a Hall of Famer. A bust of ours. So you have to start saying, okay, when, Lord, is it going to be time? We had 2015. You lost your quarterback, and you couldn't win a single game. You couldn't coach somebody else other than Tony Romo to win. So you have to start saying, okay, is Jason Garrett one of those guys like Marty Schottenheimer or Norv Turner? A guy who players love, a guy who'll get you some wins, but can't get you over the hump to the big game. You can't argue with Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer had some teams that balled out, but for whatever reason, they just couldn't win in the playoffs. Norv Turner, offensive coordinator here for our Cowboys during the 90s. But as a head coach, mediocre. Can't argue with his offensive philosophy and getting the teams to play, but not as a head coach. So you have to wonder, is this the time? Well, one of the things that's working against him, of course, is his contract. He's got this year and next year left. And typically speaking, you do not want a coach going in on his last year of his contract. You don't. He's a lame duck. So at the end of this year, this season, you have to do one of two things. You either have to fire Jason Garrett and move on, or you have to extend his contract. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So this is a prove-it year for Jason Garrett, without a doubt. It has to be, regardless of what Jerry Jones says. Now, here's the interesting thing to me, is what the Cowboys like to do. The Cowboys don't like to go outside when it comes to big hirings. They like to hire from within. Jason Garrett got his job from Wade Phillips. We've seen past coaches who always had some kind of a tie in with the Dallas Cowboys. We had Monty Kiffin, who was brought in as defensive coordinator. He was put out the pasture, and of course, we ended up having Rod Martinelli take over for defensive coordinator. They brought in Chris Richard. Chris Richard, who was really a threat to Pete Carroll, because that locker room was divided. You had Chris Richard people, you have Pete Carroll. It's conceivable that Pete Carroll might have seen the writing on the wall and said, I need to get rid of this threat. And that's part of the reason why he went. Chris Richard, make no mistake, is going to be our defensive coordinator, if not possibly our head coach if Jason Garrett fails. I could see the Dallas Cowboys elevating him to head coach. So yes, and the answer to that question, Jason Garrett is on the hot seat, without a doubt. And the Cowboys are giving him a little bit more control, to me it seems. A little bit more rope, so if it does go bad, it's going to be, hey, Jason Garrett, it's his team. You see that in All or Nothing, where you see Jason Garrett more forefront in running the team, showing the whole narrative of how he coaches and everything. So the Cowboys can go through and say, hey, just didn't work out. Time to move on. So we'll have to see if that is in fact the case. Hopefully, we'll have a great season and then it'll all be a moot point. Which I'm believing it will be, because Jason Garrett seems to have 9 lives. Jason Garrett seems to, whenever he is on the hot seat, the team performs and saves his job. So I hope you guys have a great day. I'm headed out to my day job. So as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, this doesn't work. I hope you have a great day.